What is going on, guys? Chris here. Welcome back to another video. Today we have another god guide for, press this button, Yemoja. Yemoja, another Smite 1 god, making its way over to Smite 2 on the recent two gods that came over, which were Baron and Yemoja. Jumping right in, this character is a Guardian from Smite 1. There's no roles in Smite 2, but she's still going to have a similar kit, similarly used the same passive, same thing as before. Omi. Yemoja uses Omi to cast her spells instead of mana. You can see the mana bar down there is at 10. You start at 7, going up to 10. Your auto attacks heal enemies. Additional Omi is gained at levels 5, 10, and 15. Cooldown reduction increases Omi regeneration. Her basic attacks, this is what's interesting about her basic attacks, they deal magical damage. Projectile stops on the first target hit. Yemoja basic attacks can hit allies with an increased radius, applying Omi healing. And then the scaling is the same, so throwing abilities, imagine. Throwing autos is going to do damage to enemies, but then also it's going to heal teammates. Ability number 1, Bouncing Bubble or Moonstrike. Toss a bubble that bounces twice, dealing 195 plus 30 int scaling, slows enemy, and then exploding into smaller bubbles. Small bubbles deal lower damage. Enemies take reduced damage if they are hit by both large bubbles. Allies hit will also gain Omi healing. This ability changes to Moonstrike when used. So, to give you an idea here, it'll bounce once depending on how far it is away. Bounce, bounce. Obviously, the farther you cast it, oh, that's the second ability there. And then you can see the Omi regeneration at the bottom, it takes 2. So on the abilities, you can see 2, 3, 3, 0 for her ult. Every time you cast one, the interesting thing about Yemoja is she has no cooldown. Okay? So if I want to burn through 5 ones as fast as possible, she has no cooldowns. There is a cast time, but she has no cooldowns. However, once you run out of Omi, now I just have to sit here, and if I wanted to cast something again, I am now limited to just sitting here and waiting. You cannot use mana potions. Even being in the fountain will not increase your Omi regeneration. The only thing that increases Omi regeneration is cooldown. So her second one, you saw the bubble. Her second one, let's see if it says it since it's on it. Moonstrike. The Moonstrike strikes multiple locations, does 130 plus 15 int scaling. Before a final strike, dealing 225, it will stun the enemy. Allies in the final strike have their Omi healing replaced with a buff, providing increased basic attack speed and damage. Enemy structures are also stunned for 2 seconds. This ability changes to Bouncing Bubble when used. So her 1, every time, I'll show you what I mean by this. We're taking damage, right? And then a lot of people don't know that her 1 does that when they were announcing it, but it does. It's pretty powerful. So, first one, Bouncing Bubble, damage, damage, small damage, and then the next one, stun. Pretty simple. Going over to her 2, fire a water wave, dealing 180 with 40% int scaling to enemies. This wave stops and bounces between allied god, healing them for 100 and also providing them a shield, health shield. This ability also does bonus damage to enemy health shields. Projectile stops on walls or first allied god hit. Allies will also gain Omi healing. So, if I had a teammate here, which I think I can just make one. Spawn, spawn, spawn. Set team. Apply settings. Apply settings. Look at that. Look at that. Looks like I know what I'm doing. So I could throw this 2 on Emir, do damage, or see how it bounced everybody, or if we're getting really good, it does damage and we get the bounce. So they're gaining, you can do damage to people with it, and it'll stop on the first ally hit, and then it will heal them and provide a shield. Pretty simple. And it does more damage to shielded enemies. 3, Riptide. Create a water ring that knocks back anyone that enters it. Allies travel further, and gain movement speed and protections. Enemies are slowed that go through it. Placing the ring at a maximum distance reverses its location. So, if Emir was trying to run away, and I knew how to aim, it's going to bounce him back. There you go, see? It's going to bounce him back, or you can put it in front of a teammate, and it's actually going to bounce them forward, give them movement speed and protections. So you can use it at max distance. The tide calls. To bounce somebody back to you, and they cannot run through it. So like if you put it here and they were trying to run away, they would keep bouncing backwards and going through it. They cannot even if you go through it multiple times, right? Even if you were to go through it multiple times, it will not let you. And then her ult. Let's read it here, sorry. Conjure up 2 walls of water that block enemy movement and projectiles. After a delay, they come crashing down, dealing 530 base plus 70 int scaling, trembling and slowing the enemy's hit. Allies impacted by the crashing waves gain Omi healing and the Moonstrike buff, which is attack speed and attack damage. Allies impacted by the crashing waves gain Omi healing and Moonstrike buff. You gain a buff of increased Omi over time using its ability. Enemies are slowed by 60%. Decreasing to normal over 3 seconds. You gain half of your missing Omi immediately, but the duration of the regeneration buff is decreased based on the amount restored. So what this would mean is you could be hitting somebody with this, and then this, and then this. You could be hitting it, and you could be down to a limited amount, and then you could immediately drop that, get some Omi regen back. That's what it does. So it's going to slow them. Those walls are man-made walls, meaning that like if you were to put it on each side, they cannot go through it without using a shell, similar to an Emir wall, an Odin cage. So it's going to lock players in. It's going to do 60%, or it's going to slow them by 60%. It is going to give you additional Omi to mess around with, whatever that means. So you can, for instance, you could drop your ult. Sorry, I was looking for a way to... Oh, there it is. So you could, as an example, let's say you were trying to cut people off here, and they were going to get away. You could... And now they can't leave, right? You put those two things on the end there, and all of a sudden they can't leave. As an example, we'll try and line this up here. If he was trying to get out, bounce him back in. And then you can use your 1, or maybe use more of your healing as an example, but you can see the strategies there. Locking somebody down in your 1 does a lot of damage. Okay, so locking somebody down in your ult does a lot of damage. And by say locking somebody down, I mean you're going to hit them with this. Granted, and I have no items, right? But you can see how that's going to add up by basically stun locking them, because they're going to be getting hit with multiple 2s, multiple 1s, multiple 2s. Again, that damage is going to stack. Does a lot of damage even for a support. The healing is a pretty strong factor. The buff she gives is a little bit different, right? Throwing this on an enemy or on a teammate is going to give them healing. Hitting them with this is going to give them that buff, and these things are not that we're not in Smite 1. You did not give them buffs by hitting them with abilities. You did not give them buffs by having them be in your ult here. Right, so you could throw a 1 on your teammate and a 2 on your teammates, meaning they're getting shielding, healing, more attack speed, more attack damage, and then the passive healing as well. Very strong, very high skill ceiling God, considering you have no cooldowns. There's a lot of different strategies you're going to be able to do, especially with no cooldowns. Maybe for a second you need to boost your team forward, and then maybe after that you need to immediately heal them, and then maybe you need to drop your ult and another 3 to keep people in your ult, and then maybe you need to swap to like slow somebody down. There's so many strategies she can be played at a high level. I feel like this is a relatively unpopular character by lower skill ceiling characters, or skill ceiling players, sorry, because there is a lot that comes to her. She doesn't even really have a low skill floor. A lot of these abilities aren't hard to hit, but people just do not know how to play Yemoja well, and I'm glad they didn't change much going over into Smite 2, because this character is a very high skill ceiling character, and I think we need a lot of that in Smite 2 to make it fun, to have somebody strive towards. I don't think every character just needs to be new user friendly, okay? So she is somebody who's going to excel at the very high levels. You run into, and I would argue to say, even when I was playing Smite 1, there's maybe 2 to 3 people who are going to play Yemoja correctly. There's some people who can play Yemoja, but not really. Higher level players will understand what I mean. It's just unusual. So, if you guys are enjoying the videos, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We put daily content out every single day. We're fully committed to Smite 2 content, and I'll see you guys next video. Goodbye.